Passengers, may I have your attention, please? Train number 12397, the Queen of Scots Express from Glasgow Queen Street to London King's Cross via Harrogate and Leeds Central, will depart at its scheduled time 17 hours 25 minutes from platform number 1. Hello, passengers. So, are you all set to get inside the train? Or are you all already seated and waiting for the train to start its journey? Excited you are, aren't you? You should be, because this train is going to take you through places you've never been before, and you are going to see scenes and sights that will offer you a thrilling experience. Are you wondering what's with all this train talk? Well, that's because we are here to talk about the Scottish poet Robert Louis Stevenson's poem From a Railway Carriage, which presents the thrilling experience of a train journey made by a boy or a girl in the 19th century. The poem communicates the child's thoughts and observations when he or she is sitting in a railway carriage. Let us read the poem before we understand it. Are you ready? Here we go. Faster than fairies, faster than witches, bridges and houses, hedges and ditches, and charging along like troops in a battle. All through the meadows, the horses and cattle, all of the sights of the hill and the plain, fly as thick as driving rain, and ever again in the wink of an eye, painted stations whistle by. Here is a child who clambers and scrambles, all by himself in gathering brambles. Here is a tramp who stands and gazes, and here is the green for stringing the daisies. Here is a cart run away in the road, lumping along with man and load. And here is a mill, and there is a river, each a glimpse and gone forever. That's it. As I told you a while ago, this is a poem about someone riding in a railway carriage. A railway carriage or compartment is a room or a train. In the first stanza of the poem, the poet describes the speed of the train and the sights he notices while traveling in the train. Let us look at all the difficult words in this stanza first. Fairies are imaginary creatures with magic powers. A hedge is a type of fence made out of a shrub or bush. A ditch is a drainage that you find by the side of the road, or in other words, it is a long, low place where water can run off from a road or field. Troops are soldiers or military personnel in uniform. A meadow is a grassy field, a place where cattle graze. Cattle means cows and bulls. Driving rain is heavy or forceful rain, as we see when there is a storm. Ever again means every now and then. Now that you've understood the meanings of all the difficult words in this stanza, let us see what the poet is saying here. The poet says that the train runs faster than the fairies and the witches. Oops, I forgot to give you the meaning of witches. A witch is somebody who practices black magic. The train moves or charges along. To charge is to rush forward. So the train moves or charges along like the way the soldiers attack their enemies in the battlefield. As the train rushes forward in great speed, it leaves behind bridges, houses, hedges, and ditches, and also the green fields where horses and cattle are grazing. The poet goes on to say that the train crosses all the scenes of the hill and the plain as quick as one drop of rain follows another drop in a storm. In the wink of an eye, it means very quickly, the train passes train stations or railway stations that look like painted pictures. Now, let's move on to the second stanza. The difficult words in this stanza first. To clamber is to climb or move in a difficult manner. And when you clamber, you might scramble or climb or move quickly, especially with both hands and feet. A bramble is any bush or vine with sharp thorns. tramp means a person with no home or job who travels from place to place. To gaze is to stare, to look in one direction for a long time. The poem talks about stringing the daisies, which means making a chain out of daisy flowers. To lump along is to move with difficulty as a heavy cart would. A load is just anything heavy that is carried. A mill is a building where grain, seeds, etc. are ground. A glimpse is a quick look. So in this stanza, what is the poet talking about? Here, the poet sees a child climbing a steep ground with difficulty through the window of his compartment. During climbing, he was also gathering or plucking brambles or blackberries. As the train moves forward, the poet also sees a homeless person staring at the train. He also sees some grassy lands where there were lots of daisy flowers. There were enough daisy flowers to make a chain from. The poet then sees a cart full of load, with a cart driver sitting on top of the load, moving slowly. He also gets a glimpse of a mill and a river by its side. All these sights and scenes appear and disappear so quickly that the poet could only get a glimpse of them. Let's now quickly look at the stylistic features of the poem. The poem, if you must have noticed, it has the rhythm and movement of a train. And it has 2 stanzas of 8 lines each. The rhyme scheme of the poem is A, B, B, C, C, D, D. We find figures of speech like metaphors and similes used in the poem. An example for metaphor is where the speed of the train is compared to the speed of fairies and witches. The poet has made use of simile in the lines charging along like troops in a battle and fly as thick as the driving rain. Here the movement of the train is compared to the movement of soldiers in battle and to the speed of heavy rain. You must remember that a simile is a figure of speech where 2 things are compared using like or as. An example of alliteration can be seen in the line, faster than fairies and faster than witches. We find the fur sound getting repeated. And in the line, bridges and houses, hedges and ditches, we can find the her sound getting repeated. Alliteration, as you know, is the repetition of consonant sounds at the beginning of words in a line or in nearby lines. If alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds, then assonance is the repetition of vowel sounds in nearby words. In the line, fly as thick as driving rain, we find the vowel sound I getting repeated in words like fly and driving. Assonance can also be seen in words like clambers and scrambles, where the vowel sound a is repeated. We have other examples of assonance in the poem. You can see for yourself. Visual images of the poem include bridges, houses, hedges, ditches, troops, meadows, stations, cart, mill, river, just to name a few. Why are they called visual images? They are called visual images because we can see them in our mind's eye when we read them. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the train ride. Have a safe journey. See you.